Hi Year 4, Mrs Price here. I'm going to be doing your reading lesson with you today. So today we're carrying on with our summarising Viper skill, and we're going to be identifying the main ideas and summarising these. Now if we have a look at Mrs Evans's think question from yesterday, what did you think? Do you think it is important to keep rivers clean? Why or why not? Okay, now when I had to think about that question, I thought that it was really important to keep rivers clean because of all the animals and the plants that live in or on the river. These creatures could get hurt by any rubbish. Swans and birds could get caught in fishing lines that have been left. Or if the river water is dirty, the fish and plants won't be able to live there. So if we have a look at some of the tricky words that are in our text today, we've got the word chemical. Okay, a chemical is a substance that helps to make everyday things. And in the text we're going to read, we're going to think about chemicals in fertilizers. We've got the tricky word volunteer, and a volunteer is someone who does work without being paid. And we've also got the word algae, and algae is lots of very small plants that grow in or near water. If we look at the word dangerous here, where's the root word in the word dangerous? That's right, we've got danger, and we've got the OUS suffix on the end to change it from danger into dangerous. Something can be dangerous. Okay, well done. If we have a look at a word from our year 3 and 4 spelling list, we've got material. Have a good look at material. Can you spot any little words in there that might help you to remember how to spell it? That's right, I can see the word mat at the beginning. Mat, all at the end. So have a good look at it. Pause the video and have a go at spelling material. We have a look at our vocabulary words for the week. We've got pollution. Okay, so let's have a look at the picture of pollution. Here we go. So pollution is harmful waste or rubbish that's left lying, and this can cause damage. Okay, so pollution. Discarded. Let's have a think about that word. What does discarded mean? Okay, if something is discarded, it's when something has been got rid of and just left, thrown away. So things haven't been taken care of, they've just been left, discarded. Okay, and these bottles, lots of plastic bottles have been discarded. Fertilizer. What's fertilizer? Okay, well, fertilizer, you can see this tractor is spraying fertilizer on the field, and it's a chemical that's added to soil and on fields to help plants grow. Okay, fertilizer. Right, so let's say these words together first. Pollution, discarded, fertilizer. Let's clap them. Pollution, discarded, fertilizer. Let's whisper them. Pollution, discarded, fertilizer. And let's shout them. Pollution, discarded, fertilizer. So today's text has got the heading River Pollution. Okay, so you can join in with me as I read, or you can follow as I read, but make sure you're listening really carefully. Okay, so river pollution. At its source in the mountains, a stream is sparkling and clear, but further downstream in the river, human activities cause pollution, which can affect plants and animals living in the water. People can easily pollute rivers. Litter, especially plastics that do not rot, can wash into the water from the riverbanks. Discarded rubbish can be very harmful to wildlife, and because of this, many people volunteer to collect litter from riverbanks. And you can see a picture here of a volunteer collecting litter from the riverbanks. Okay, and here you can see an awful lot of discarded rubbish on the riverbanks. So, waste materials from factories and mines are often piped into rivers. All this waste can be dangerous for river life. And here there's a picture, there's a caption underneath, adding dirty water to rivers harms plants and wildlife. Okay. Right, farmers use fertilizers to help crops to grow. Rain may wash these chemicals into rivers. Fertilizers encourage algae to grow and reduce the amount of oxygen in the water. Without enough oxygen to breathe, fish and other water wildlife die. Okay, so that's our text for today. Okay, so this time we're going to read the text again, and we're going to read a page at a time. Can you join in with me or follow carefully and listen as I read? Then I'm going to ask you a question. So are we ready to read? Off we go. River pollution. At its source in the mountains, a stream is sparkling and clear. But further downstream in the river, human activities cause pollution, which can affect plants and animals living in the water. Okay, so how has the river been described? What adjectives have been used to describe the stream? Okay, the river when it's a tiny stream. Have a look in the text. What adjectives can you see to describe the stream? Okay, well done. If you found sparkling and clear. Okay, so the stream is sparkling and clear. Well done if you found those. So let's read the next page together. People can easily pollute rivers. Litter, especially plastics that do not rot, can wash into the water from the riverbanks. Discarded rubbish can be very harmful to wildlife, and because of this, many people volunteer to collect litter from riverbanks. Okay, so what can be left behind or discarded rubbish be harmful to? Okay, so discarded rubbish can be harmful to, let's have a look in the text. Have you found it? Wildlife. Well done. You spotted that it was wildlife. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at this page together. It says waste materials from factories and mines are often piped into rivers. All this waste can be dangerous for river life. Okay, so where does the waste materials come from? Where do the waste materials come from? Can you find it? Well done. Factories and mines. Brilliant. Okay, so farmers use fertilizers to help crops to grow. Rain may wash these chemicals into rivers. Fertilizers encourage algae to grow and reduce the amount of oxygen in the water. Without enough oxygen to breathe, fish and other wildlife will die. Okay, so why does algae cause a problem in rivers? What does algae do in rivers? Have a look at that word algae. Fertilizers encourage algae to grow. Well done if you found that it reduces the amount of oxygen in the water. Well done. So today we've been thinking about river pollution, and in the text there are some new exciting words, and we're going to think today about what those words mean and how we can use them. So here's the grid that you're going to use, and I'm going to show you one which I've already filled in to give you an idea. So the word that you find in the text that you maybe find a bit tricky is, and I've chosen the word source. Okay, so everything that's in red are the bits that you're going to fill in. Okay, so I looked at the meaning of the word source, and source is where something comes from or can be found. So I've written the meaning here. Okay, another meaning is it's the start of a river where it begins. So that's just making that a little bit more detailed. And then can you write your word in a sentence? So here I've put that the source of the River Severn is Plynlimmon in Wales. Plynlimmon in Wales. Okay, the next little task, can you draw a picture of your word? And then can you do a little bit of thinking about the word? Think of the sound. Okay, so it starts with an S. Think of something that it rhymes with, the sound of the word. So I thought horse and sauce rhyme. Then how many syllables has your word got? So sauce has just got the one syllable. So here we've got the blank grid, so you just need to draw a circle in the middle of your page, pop a new exciting word in there, then write your new exciting word in a sentence up here, and then over here, can you write the definition for the word? What does your new exciting word mean? Then you can draw a symbol or a picture. Think about the sounds that your word makes. What does it start with? Can you think of a word that rhymes with it? And how many syllables does it have? Okay, so if you could do some of those in your book, that would be amazing. Over here, I've got some of the words that you might find in your text and choose to use, but there are lots of others. Here's a few that you might use to get you started. Okay, we've got chemicals, volunteer, wildlife, fertilizers, and pollution. But when you're reading back through the text, you might well find different ones. Okay, so we can't wait to see which words you're going to choose and how you're going to describe them for us. But before we start our next chapter at the boy at the back of the class, let's have a look at today's think question. Okay, Mrs. Evans will go through this with you tomorrow. It says, what could we do to help stop river pollution? Okay, so what do you think could help to stop river pollution? Jot down your ideas and Mrs. Evans will go through that with you tomorrow. Okay, and then we'll be ready to start our story.
Okay, so today's chapter is chapter 20, The Coldstream Guards. When my brain woke up again and I opened my eyes, I was lying on something soft and could see a blur of flashing blue lights and lots of police cars everywhere. Right, let's get her in the ambulance, said a voice. Tom was standing next to where my feet were. He was crying and saying "friend" a lot to a London police officer, but standing behind him were two of the Queen's Special Guards. Forgetting that I had been frightened, I sat up and cried out, "Please!" And realising the note was still in my hand, but all scrunched up now, I held it out to them and said, "Please, you have to give this to the Queen." The London police officer who had been talking to Tom walked up to me. "Now you just calm down and take it easy. You did a dangerous thing today. These are trained combat officers," he said, pointing to the Queen's Special Guards. "They're trained to stop anyone attempting to hurt the Queen." But we didn't want to hurt the Queen," sobbed Tom. His face was red and wet. "We know that now, son, but we can't be too careful, can we?" said the officer, his voice not as strict as it was before. One of the Queen's Special Guards came over to me. "Let's have a look at this note then, shall we?" he said gently, holding out his hand. I handed it to him and watched his face as he read it. Sometimes people won't tell you what they're really thinking, so you have to watch their face extra hard and see if they give any clues away. I didn't expect a special guard to do anything with his face, especially not one who worked for the Queen. But this one chuckled and then handed it over to the other special guard standing next to him, and who had more medals on his chest. He smiled too. I don't know why, because it wasn't meant to be funny. This is what the note said. "Dear Your Highness Majesty Queen of England, we wrote you a letter on Friday about Armit, our friend who's a refugee boy, and put 3 stamps on it so that the Royal Mail would get it to you faster. We've come to see you today because it's Wednesday already and we thought the Royal Mail might have lost your letter, and as the gates are closing on Friday, it means that we haven't got much time to find Armit's family and bring them here so that they can all live together. We're outside the gates now. Tom's got brown hair and I've got dark brown hair, and we're in our school uniforms, which are dark blue and grey with pictures of a ship and a book on it so that you can see us easily. We can't stay later than 1:30 because if we don't get home at home time, then our mums and Tom's dad and Josie and Michael will worry. Please let us come and see you as soon as you finish your breakfast. Yours sincerely, me and Tom. P.S. We've got extra tea bags for tea." "Hoping to have tea with the Queen, were you?" asked the second special guard as he shook his head. "Here, look at this," he said, passing the note to a police officer who was standing opposite. She read it and said, "Well, you don't see notes like that every day." A paramedic woman in a dark green onesie looked at the note too. "Oh, sweet," she said. Then she made me lie down again and started pushing the bed onto the ambulance. "But I don't want to go to hospital. Please, no," I shouted, starting to feel scared. I don't like hospitals. The last time I saw Dad was when he was in hospital, and I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't ever see one again, not ever. "Don't worry, we won't take you to the hospital unless we need to, darling, but I do need to check you're okay and that you don't have concussion," said the paramedic calmly. She had long black hair that was tied into a ponytail and large brown eyes and an upside-down watch on her chest. "Just lie here quietly for me for a few minutes and we'll have you out and about in no time at all," she added, giving me a wink. The wink and her nice voice made me feel a little bit better, so I did what she said. After she pushed me onto the ambulance, the paramedic told me that her name was Devinda and asked me all sorts of things like how was I feeling, did I have a headache, and who was Armit, and about my mum and dad. I told her about my dad, and she said that she was sorry. She held my wrist and checked my pulse and put a thermometer in my mouth, and then said, "Now I just need to check your heartbeat." But when she pulled up my school jumper, she stopped. "Nice top," she said, her mouth suddenly looking as if it was tickling her. I looked down at myself and suddenly remembered that we all both put on our best outfits for the Queen. "It's my best top," I said, touching the shirt dotted with sparkling silver stars and golden planets. "For when we see the Queen," I explained. "Ah," grinned Pavinda, as she opened the top 3 buttons and put a cold silver disc on my chest. "Now take a deep breath in and out." After listening for a few moments, she nodded and said, "You look and sound absolutely fine to me. Ready to go?" I nodded. So she helped me down from the bed and held my hand as I got off the ambulance. In the distance, I could hear people cheering, but I didn't know why. "Now, I think it's time for you two to get on home. Officer Martina is going to take you both home in that special car over there," said Paramedic Devinder. She pointed to the London police officer who was standing next to Tom and the 2 special guards. Behind her was a police car with flashing blue lights on top of it. "Really?" asked Tom, his eyes lighting up. I was excited too, but then I remembered the note. "But what about the Queen and the note?" I cried, looking up at everyone. "If we don't give it to the Queen, then she won't know that we came, and she won't know about Ahmet." Officer Martina smiled. "Oh, I think she'll know that you came all right," she said. The special guard wearing the most medals walked over to me and bent down so that his face was at the same level as mine. He had bright blue eyes and a large dimple in his cheek, just like Dad used to have, only Dad had them in both cheeks, not just one. "Her Majesty isn't here today," he said. "She's actually in her other castle in Windsor." "The Queen's got another castle?" asked Tom, looking horrified. "Don't worry, I'll make sure she knows that you were both here and that she gets this." The special guard held up the note. "All right?" "Promise?" I asked, suddenly feeling happy again. "Like, really, really, really promise?" "You have my word," he nodded, and a Coldstream Guard never breaks a promise. "What's a Coldstream Guard?" I asked immediately, imagining lots of them diving into freezing cold streams with their hats on. "A Coldstream Guard is what we are," he replied, standing back up straight. "I'm Lieutenant Chris Taylor, and standing next to your friend Tom there is Second Lieutenant Walter Kungu." I looked over at the other guard, who was now giving a salute. "We're part of a very special force that protects both the Queen's houses and the country." "Can you give her our presents too, then?" asked Tom. "Presents?" asked Officer Martina. "Yes, we got them for the Queen," explained Tom, pulling out the half-eaten packet of biscuits, the ruler, the packet of football stickers and the squash box of fudge from my rucksack. "I'm afraid we can't take those," grinned Lieutenant Kungu, "but we'll let her know about them when we give Her Majesty your note." "Oh, okay," Tom shrugged, stuffing everything back into my bag. "Now, kids, time to get you home," said Officer Martina. "We've spoken to your school and your parents have told them what happened." "Oh no," said Tom, twisting his hands. "We're going to be in so much trouble." I nodded miserably. "Don't worry," said Paramedic Devinder. "I'm sure they'll be happy just to have you back home and safe. And I think," she added, looking up at the helicopters that were flying overhead, "you might even be a little bit famous." Tom frowned at me and I frowned back, because we were both wondering what could have made us famous. "You two have a safe journey now," said Lieutenant Taylor. "And the next time you want to send the Queen a message, don't go running after any of us soldiers," said Lieutenant Kungu. "A letter is more than enough." And giving Tom and me a nod and a salute, the Queen's special Coldstream Guards, who were now extra special to both me and Tom, marched off back towards the palace carrying the Queen's note. "Right, young troopers, in you go," said Officer Martina, as a silver car with bright yellow and blue squares on its doors and a huge siren on the top stopped in front of us. Passing me a piece of folded paper, Paramedic Devinder said, "That's a special note for your mum to let her know that you're completely fine. So make sure you give it to her, okay?" I nodded. "Bye then," smiled Paramedic Devinder as she began to wave. "You both take care of yourselves now." Getting into the back seat of the police car, we waved back. Lots of people also began cheering and waving at us from all along the palace walls, so we waved back at them too, even though we didn't really know why. Tom got out a biscuit and started eating it. I took one too, but even though I was hungry, I couldn't eat it. My stomach felt all jumpy and twisty inside, and the closer we got to home, the more jumpy and twisty it became. There are some journeys you can't ever enjoy, no matter how exciting they are. Not even when you're in a real police car, because at the end of it, you know you'll be getting at least 100 detentions and probably won't be allowed any pocket money or chocolate for about 10 years. But it was okay, because even not being able to have any chocolate ever again would be worth it if the Queen could help Amit find his mum and dad. That was all that really mattered.